Welcome to Breaking News to Trading Moves, the show where we look at the latest product announcements and market developments and explore how they affect companies and entire sectors.
Today we're focused on a consumer tech debut that touches on, well, a few different areas all at once. You've got smart home, consumer electronics, and even the pet care market.
Right, and we're going to be looking at the launch of Tuya Smart's new AI companion robot, which they're calling Aura. It just launched at the Consumer Electronics Show CES 2026.
And our mission for you, the listener, is to really chart out the potential market movements from this. We want to identify the companies that might be positioned for games, but
Also, the ones that might be facing some new challenges because of a product like this. It's about looking beyond just the device itself and that the infrastructure it relies on.
and the launch itself happened at CES 2026 in Las Vegas, which is, the classic proving ground for new hardware. It really gives you a sense of where consumer dollars might be headed.
Yeah, and this year, a lot of the talk was about this idea of physical AI.
hmm And Aura from Tuya Smart, that's ticker TUYA, was right at the center of that conversation.
So let's get into the specifics of what they announced. Tuya Smart, Tuya, rolls out Aura, and they're calling it their first AI-powered companion robot. And the target market is, well, it's huge. It's the pet market.
It is. And the key thing to watch is how they're positioning it against what's already out there. They're making it very clear this isn't just another gadget.
What do you mean by that? It's not just a feeder or a camera.
Exactly. They're framing it as something very different from, say, a simple automated feeder or one of those stationary pet cameras that just lets you, check in remotely. They're trying to create a new category.
Okay, that makes sense. Because that positioning really matters. When we start talking about which other companies are affected, they're going for that companion idea.
Right. Which suggests an ongoing use, a relationship with the pet, not just a simple utility like dispensing food or letting you watch a video feed.
And to be a companion, it must have a much more sophisticated set of technologies inside.
It absolutely does. The whole value proposition for Aura is built around its intelligence features. Tuya is marketing this thing as an interactive, intelligent partner for your pet, and that implies a level of capability that, frankly, goes way beyond simple monitoring.
So this puts it in a different league. It's not just a smart device. It's more like a mobile consumer robot.
That's a great way to put it. It's a mobile robot with a very specific, very interactive job to do.
So let's break down those features, because the details here are why we see consequences for chip companies and software platforms. First on the list is something they call emotional and behavioral intelligence.
Yeah, and this is really the core of it. Aura is said to have actual emotion recognition.
Emotion recognition for a pet, how does that even work?
It's complex. It works by analyzing two different streams of data at the same time, in real time. First, there's the pet's behavior, which means it needs some very advanced computer vision to watch movement, body language, that sort of thing.
I see. So it's watching the pet.
It's watching, and it's also listening. The second data stream is the sounds the pet makes. It needs sophisticated audio processing on the device itself to know the difference between, say, a happy yip and a distressed whine.
And to process both of those things at once, vision and audio, and then make a judgment call on the pet's emotional state. Happy, anxious, playful, that takes a lot of processing power right there on the device.
A substantial amount. And that's our first clue pointing toward the semiconductor companies. The device isn't just recording what's happening, it's trying to interpret it.
And then it acts on that interpretation, which I guess brings us to the interactive functions.
Exactly. It can't just be a passive observer. As a companion, it has to engage. So Aura has features for interactive play, designed to keep the pet busy when the owner isn't home.
So it'll, what, roll a ball or shine a laser pointer?
Things like that, yes.
Huh.
It involves motion tracking and responding to the pet's actions. And critically, it also dispenses treats. You can imagine the feedback loop. The robot sees the pet is bored, or maybe the pet obeys a command, and it gets a treat instantly.
That real-time reward system is only possible if the decision is made locally on the device.
It has to be. You can't have lag. And another thing that makes it different, it moves. This isn't just a box sitting in the corner of the room. Its autonomy and movement are key.
And that's a huge departure from most other pet tech products out there.
A critical one. It uses autonomous navigation. That means it needs a whole suite of sensors. It needs SLAM capabilities, that's simultaneous localization and mapping, so it can build a map of your home and navigate safely.
So it's not bumping into furniture or falling down the stairs?
Hopefully not. It needs the onboard computing power to do all of that without a human directing it, to find its charging station, to avoid obstacles. This really puts Aura in the same category as high-end robotic vacuums or even some security drones in terms of its robotics.
And while it's doing all this thinking and moving, it's also still a camera. The media capabilities are there too.
They are, but they're enhanced. It can capture photos and videos. But the AI part is that it's supposed to trigger that capture based on what it's sensing.
Ah, so it's not just recording hours of an empty room, it's trying to capture the interesting moments.
The moments that matter.
Yeah.
When the pet is being playful or doing something funny, it's supposed to be a smart photographer, not just a security camera.
Now, you mentioned something else that's crucial for the long-term market view, the last feature, ecosystem integration.
To me, this is maybe the most important part from an investment standpoint. Aura isn't designed to be a standalone product. It has hooks into Tuya's entire ecosystem of local pet services.
Okay, explain what that means and why it's so vital for this discussion.
It means the device goes from being a one-time hardware sale to a gateway for selling services over the long term.
So it's a platform.
It's a platform. Tuya is a platform company at its core. By building in these integration points, they can connect the user to other services. Maybe it's a dog training app, maybe it's scheduling a vet appointment, or even automatically reordering pet food when the robot detects it's running low.
And Tuya gets a cut of all of that.
That's the model. That's the path to high-margin, recurring subscription and transaction revenue, which for investors is much more powerful than just the profit on the initial sale of the robot itself.
Okay, that paints a really clear picture of the product. Now, let's zoom out a bit. You mentioned this launch is being seen as a big indicator of a trend called physical AI.
That's right. That's the analytical frame here. We're seeing AI move off the screen, out of the data center, and into our physical world through these very capable, always-on hardware devices.
Well, we've had AI in devices for years, right? I mean, voice assistants on our phones and speakers. What makes this new wave of physical AI different?
It's a fair question. You could think of it as the third wave. The first wave was purely in the cloud, on a server somewhere, interpreting basic commands. The second was sort of a hybrid, where your device could understand a simple wake word, but any complex question went straight to the cloud.
And the third wave?
The third wave, physical AI, as we're talking about it now, is where really sophisticated AI features, like the kind that can generate new content or process multiple inputs at once, vision, sound, movement, are moving from software apps directly onto the hardware itself.
So it's not just sending data to the cloud for an answer, it's making its own complex decisions right there on the device.
Precisely. Instead of Aura sending a video feed of your dog to a server farm to figure out if it's happy, the device itself is doing that interpretation. It's analyzing the behavior, the sounds, the environment, and then deciding to dispense a treat or start a game, all in milliseconds.
So the computation is moving from the centralized cloud back to the device at the edge.
And that movement, that is the foundation for all the market consequences we're about to discuss.
So if products like Aura catch on with consumers, if people are willing to pay for this, it's going to accelerate demand in a few key areas. Let's walk through those. The first one is demand for AIoT platforms.
Right, the basic infrastructure. A device like Aura can't exist in a vacuum. It needs a massive, reliable support system to work, to get updates, to talk to your other smart home devices, and to connect to those services we just talked about.
This creates more demand for that underlying plumbing, the device-to-cloud connectivity.
It does. It includes the entire framework for the apps on your phone that you use to control these things, and just as important, the developer marketplaces that let third parties build new skills and services for them.
It seems like it would be incredibly expensive for a new company to build all that from scratch.
Prohibitively so. It's too costly and takes too long. So they rely on platform companies that have already solved these problems. And of course, Tuya, T-U-Y-A, is one of the biggest providers of these very platforms. So Aura is, in a way, a giant advertisement for their main business.
A showcase for what their platform can do. Okay, so platforms are number one. Number two is demand for edge AI compute. This gets back to where the processing happens.
This is a direct result of the device's complexity. For a robot like Aura to work intelligently in your home, it can't afford the delay of talking to the cloud for every little decision.
It needs to handle everything at once.
Voice processing, computer vision to see what's going on, and all the math for navigation.
Yeah.
It has to do all that at the same time, and it has to do it using very little power, since it's probably running on a battery.
To make it simple for our listener, if Aura sees the dog is upset and needs to act immediately, a 2-second delay while it talks to a server makes the action pointless.
It has to be instant. Absolutely. So that need for instant, low-power, reliable processing on the device itself, that's edge AI. It requires very specialized, very efficient chips.
And the more complex the AI on the device, the better the chip needs to be.
And the more a chip maker can charge for it.
Yeah.
This creates a huge opportunity for those specialized semiconductor companies.
Okay. And the third area you mentioned is more of a competitive dynamic. Pressure on consumer robotics.
Yes. When a product like Aura gets a lot of attention, it elevates the entire conversation around consumer robots. It gets consumers and investors thinking more about things like autonomy, mapping, sensors, the core technologies that make a robot a robot.
Which you'd think is good for everyone in the space.
It is, in a way. It raises the tide for the whole sector. But it also puts a lot of pressure on older hardware brands that maybe only do one thing: a vacuum that just vacuums or a camera that just records.
Because the baseline of what a home robot is expected to do is now higher.
Exactly. They now have to speed up their own plans and figure out how to compete with this new level of multifunctional AI and service integration that Aura represents.
This sets us up perfectly to get into the specific companies. If these three areas see more demand because of Aura, which market segments and specific companies are positioned to do well, let's chart out the potential winners.
Okay, the list of potential winners lines up pretty cleanly with those three areas we just discussed: the platforms, the silicon, and the overall robotics sector.
Let's start with the first one. Segment 1. AIoT platforms and smart home ecosystems.
Right, these are the companies that build the digital plumbing. They provide the frameworks for connectivity, the operating systems, basically the foundation that this new generation of AI companions is built on.
As you get more of these intelligent devices, the demand for the platforms that manage them all just grows.
It grows exponentially. You need reliable, scalable platforms to handle all that data and all those connections.
And the first company on the list is, no surprise, Tuya Smart, Tuya.
Of course, as the platform provider, Tuya is the most direct beneficiary. Their whole business is providing this AIoT platform that helps other companies build and launch smart products quickly.
So Aura is their proof of concept.
It's a brilliant proof point, a high-profile showcase of what their platform can do. In many ways, this launch is a marketing campaign designed to attract more developers and more manufacturers to build their devices on the Tuya ecosystem.
And secure that future platform revenue.
That's the goal. But we also have to look at the giants who control the broader home ecosystems: Amazon, AMZN, and Alphabet, GOOGL.
How does a Tuya product benefit Amazon?
Amazon AMZN benefits because of its massive smart home presence with Alexa, its cloud platform with AWS, and of course its retail dominance. When a device like Aura comes into a home, it has to work with what's already there.
It needs to be controllable by Alexa.
It needs to work with Alexa for voice control, and very often the back-end data storage and updates will run on AWS. Amazon makes money from the increased volume and complexity of connected devices just by being the default layer for connectivity and sales.
Okay, I see. And it's a similar story for Alphabet, GOOGL.
A very similar story.
Yeah.
GOOGL benefits through its control of Android, the Google Home platform, and its cloud services, GCP. Like Amazon, they have the scale and the developer support that's necessary. Any serious AI device has to integrate seamlessly with both of the major voice platforms.
So Aura's success reinforces the power of these existing platform gatekeepers.
It absolutely does.
Okay, let's move to segment 2. Edge AI chips and on-device inference enablers. These are the companies making the brains of the operation.
Right. And the logic here is all about technical need. The demand for doing all these complex things at once: voice, vision, navigation, and doing it efficiently on the device itself, well, that's a big win for the suppliers of these specialized chips.
This is where the engineering really matters.
It's where silicon design meets the demands of real-time AI.
And the first name here is Qualcomm, QCOM.
Qualcomm, QCOM, is a key player. They specialize in mobile and IoT chipsets that are specifically designed for power efficiency and high-performance AI at the edge. Their expertise is in creating these integrated systems on a chip, or SoCs.
So it's everything on one piece of silicon.
Everything you need, the sensor inputs, the local AI processing, the wireless connectivity, all crammed onto one chip that can run on a battery. The kind of multitasking that Aura needs is exactly what Qualcomm's robotics and smart appliance platforms are built for.
Okay. And the second name is NVIDIA, NVDA. Now, a lot of people associate NVIDIA with huge GPUs in data centers for training AI.
They do, and that's their biggest business. But their inclusion here is about their strategic push into edge AI and robotics, particularly with their Jetson platform.
So they're taking their data center tech and shrinking it down.
In a way, yes. They're creating powerful, compact solutions that provide the computational power for some of the most advanced robotics out there, especially robots that need to do a lot of heavy lifting with computer vision and deep learning.
So Aura's need for really high-quality understanding of its environment, that plays right into NVIDIA's strengths.
It validates the demand for that kind of high-performance processing in a consumer device, making NVIDIA a beneficiary of this trend toward more powerful hardware in the home.
Got it. Now for our third segment of winners, the home robotics and automation ecosystem.
The idea here is that a high-profile launch like Aura gives a lift to the whole consumer robotics story. It gets people thinking about home automation and autonomy, which are the building blocks of this entire category.
It raises general awareness.
And investor interest.
This is where iRobot, IRBT, comes in as a potential winner.
Right. Now, iRobot, IRBT, is the big name in home cleaning robots. And while Aura is a pet companion, not a vacuum cleaner, the general market excitement around physical AI can help the perception of the whole sector.
So investors might look at this and think, okay, consumers are finally ready for more autonomous devices in the home.
That's the theory. The hope for them is that this trend encourages more innovation across all of home robotics, which could benefit iRobot's own technology in mapping and navigation as the performance bar gets raised for everyone.
And the other company mentioned here is Teradyne, T-E-R. They're a bit further up the supply chain.
Much further up. Most consumers will never have heard of Teradyne, T-E-R, but they're essential. They make the automated test equipment that's used when you manufacture complex electronics, like semiconductors, and the devices they go into.
So as robots like Aura get more complicated?
The testing gets more complicated. As you add more sensors, more complex chips, more moving parts, the job of making sure every single unit works perfectly becomes much, much harder.
And that's where Teradyne comes in.
Teradyne's equipment becomes more critical, so they stand to gain from the manufacturing side of this robotics expansion. Plus, they also own some major industrial robotics companies, so they benefit from the general automation trend as well.
Okay, so we've laid out the companies that could gain from the platform, the silicon, and the general sector momentum. Now we have to look at the other side of the coin. Which segments and companies might face some new pressure because of a product like Aura?
This is where it gets really interesting, because when a new high-tech standard appears, it can really squeeze the older players. We're looking at potential displacement and a loss of market share.
When an AI-first product raises the bar, it creates problems for anyone who hasn't kept up.
Immediate problems, yes.
Let's start with the most direct competitors. Segment 1, pet robot and companion hardware incumbents.
The logic here is pretty straightforward market displacement. A sophisticated new product like Aura just makes the competition in the pet robotics space that much tougher.
Because if Aura's features, the emotion recognition, the autonomy, the ecosystem part, if that becomes the new standard for a premium pet robot,
Then everyone else has to catch up, and fast.
Mhm.
They either have to match those features, which cost a lot of money, or they face pressure to lower their prices. Either way, it's not good for their margins.
And the first company mentioned is Sony, ADR.
Right. Sony is mentioned because of their Aibo robotic dog. Aibo has been around for a while, and it really occupies that high-end premium companion space.
It's very sophisticated.
No question. But Aura's launch puts a new kind of pressure on Aibo. The focus is now on integrating AI into practical pet care and connecting it to a whole ecosystem of services. This might make it harder for Sony to justify Aibo's premium price if newer competitors are offering more utility.
The selling point changes from just advanced robotics to integrated useful intelligence.
That's a perfect way to phrase it.
Now, this is where it gets tricky. We have iRobot, IRBT, listed here as a potential loser, but we just talked about them being a potential winner. How can one product launch be both good and bad for the same company?
This is probably the most important complexity for you to understand when you're looking at these market movements. iRobot can be a winner because of that halo effect. More people are interested in home robots in general.
But they're a loser because of competitive pressure.
Exactly. The pressure is on feature parity. Aura is demonstrating some really sophisticated autonomy and mapping that is competitive with, or maybe even better than, what you see in current single-purpose devices.
So the risk isn't that Aura is going to start vacuuming floors.
No. The risk is that its advanced navigation technology makes iRobot's technology look less special. It pressures iRobot to spend more money on R&D to innovate faster just to keep up.
So consumer expectations for what a home robot is might change. They might start expecting more than just a vacuum cleaner.
Precisely. The fear for iRobot is that consumers start looking for a versatile, multi-purpose AI companion, and they divert their spending away from a single-purpose device. Aura raises the technical bar for everyone, forcing the leader, iRobot, to compete not just on how well it cleans, but on its overall home intelligence. And that's costly.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's move to the second segment, facing some headwinds. Traditional pet products facing tech substitution at the margin.
This one is really about consumer spending. The idea is that if people start spending a lot of money on high-tech pet robots, that money has to come from somewhere.
The pet care budget isn't infinite.
Exactly. So this substitution effect means that spending might go down for more traditional, non-tech pet items like basic toys, simple feeders, things like that. People shift their dollars toward the new interactive robots and the digital services that come with them.
And the companies listed here are BARK, and Central Garden and Pet, CENTA.
Right. BARK is known for its subscription boxes full of pet toys and treats. That's a core part of the traditional pet engagement market.
And if a consumer buys a robot like Aura that promises to play with their pet all day and dispense treats,
They may not feel the need to keep buying new chew toys every month. It's pressure on their core business model through substitution.
what about Central Garden and Pet, CENTA?
CENTA is a much broader company. They have a huge range of pet products, but many of them are not tech-focused standard pet supplies, basic feeders. While they're diversified, the risk for them comes from that general movement in consumer spending toward smart solutions. Companies that rely heavily on analog products could see their market share slowly erode.
Okay, finally, the third segment, cloud-first AI workloads facing margin pressure risk. This feels like the most technical point.
It is, and it's a direct counterpoint to what we said earlier about edge AI being a winner. The thinking here is that if the industry really does manage to shift more AI processing onto the device itself, then there's less need to do that work in the cloud.
So the amount of work being sent to the big data centers might not grow as fast.
For this specific category consumer device, AI, that's the risk. The processing load is literally moving from a giant data center to a tiny chip inside a robot in your living room.
And this could affect a giant like Microsoft, MSFT.
Microsoft MSFT is a dominant force in cloud computing with Azure.
Right.
They host a massive amount of AI work. Now, their big enterprise AI business is still incredibly strong. The risk is much more targeted.
It's at the consumer device edge.
Exactly. If the maker of a device like Aura decides that 80% of the real-time processing can be done locally on the chip, then that 80% of work is no longer being sent to Azure's cloud for processing. Doesn't mean their revenue will drop, but it could mean the growth rate in that specific consumer vertical slows down a bit.
And this brings us back to Amazon, AMZN, which, like iRobot, shows up on both the winners and losers list.
Amazon is the perfect example of this complex dynamic. They are a winner because their whole AIoT ecosystem, Alexa, their retail site, benefits enormously from more connected devices like Aura. But at the same time, their huge cloud platform, Amazon Web Services, is a major provider of those cloud-based AI services.
So the very same trend that helps one part of their business
Could create a headwind for another part. The trend of pushing AI to the edge helps their smart home platform, but implies slower growth for some of their AWS workloads. It's a balancing act they have to manage across the whole company.
So we have the initial market picture, the potential winners and the potential losers. But a product launch at CES isn't the end of the story. It's really just the beginning. What should our listeners be watching for over the next few months to see how this actually plays out?
That's the right question. We need to watch three things: the commercialization signals, the recurring revenue strategy, and of course the response from the rest of the industry.
Let's start with commercialization signals.
Yeah.
How do we know if this is a real product that's going to sell versus just a cool concept for a trade show?
You have to look for the follow-up announcements that show a real path to market. That means watching for specific, named partnerships with manufacturers and brands. Tuya's model is to enable other companies, so we need to know who is actually going to be building and selling devices based on this Aura platform.
If we don't hear about those partners, that's a red flag.
Yeah, it could suggest some hesitation in the market. And we also need hard numbers.
Price and ship date.
Price and an official ship date. You have to remember, CES launches can sometimes be aspirational. They're designed to get attention. If the launch gets delayed or the price is so high that it's only for the super wealthy, then its ability to affect the broader market is much smaller.
Okay, and then you mentioned the recurring revenue strategy.
Right. Selling the hardware is one thing, but the long-term value for a company like Tuya is in the recurring revenue. So we need to look for signs of paid subscriptions catching on.
What would they charge for?
It could be for advanced AI features, for detailed reports on your pet's behavior, for premium video storage. We have to see what they offer for free versus what's behind the paywall.
And what about those marketplace services?
That's the other big thing to track. We need to watch the attach rates. Are people who buy the robot actually using it to sign up for pet care services or order supplies? If Tuya can successfully take a cut of those transactions, that high-margin service revenue will be a much better indicator of long-term success than just the initial hardware sales.
And finally, we need to watch the industry response. What are all those other companies we mentioned going to do?
Exactly. We have to watch how the incumbents in pet tech and home robotics react. Does iRobot, IRBT, suddenly announce a new partnership with a chip company to upgrade their AI? Do the traditional pet toy companies start trying to make smart toys to compete?
So if a company like Sony or iRobot makes a fast, major move in response, that actually confirms that Aura is a big deal.
It validates its importance, yes, but a fast response also suggests that any head start the winners have might be shorter than we think. It becomes a real-time game of technological catch-up.
So to sum it all up, the launch of Tuya Smart's Aura is a real marker for where consumer electronics is heading. It reinforces this idea that advanced AI is moving into our physical hardware, this physical AI trend.
It really is. And this whole dynamic creates new opportunities and new pressures. It increases demand for the specialized chips and the software platforms, while at the same time putting the squeeze on older companies that rely on single-purpose hardware or cloud-only AI.
It seems like this move of computation back to the device, to the edge, forces a reevaluation of where the value is. Is it in the device, the chip inside it, or the platform connecting it all?
It creates a tension across the entire tech sector that, we'll have to keep a very close eye on.
And before we close, we have to provide our standard disclaimer.
Yes. We must stress that this discussion is purely for informational purposes, based on an analysis of public information about product launches and potential market movements. This is not financial advice. It is not a recommendation to buy or sell any stock or security we've mentioned. It's purely the opinion of the author.
Thank you for joining us on Breaking News to Trading Moves. We'll continue to track these developments and see how the market really does react to the continued rise of physical AI.